Hey, what is up YouTube? This is Powerhouse here with another one of my videos, and today I'm going to do something different, and we are going to revisit one of my old reviews, one of my most polarizing reviews, and that was the review of Napoleon Total War. Now, just to let everyone know off the bat, my opinion has not changed on the game, but I thought it would be kind of fun just to see the video and why I got so much disdain, things that I could have done better, and things that may have changed, things that I want to kind of explain a little bit more. It's been about what, like 3 years since I made this video, but it's a significant video to me. Not only the amount of views I got was pretty high, and the response, comments, and all that stuff was pretty high as well, unexpectedly. So, but it was my first video back after a long hiatus. First video in the new apartment and the debut of Uncle Ramon. So a lot of firsts for this video, and also first of the new format that I've been adapting for my Powerhouse reviews. So yeah, just figured let's take a look back, go a trip down memory lane to 2018 and see how it is. It's not going to be a pure reaction video like other videos are. It's just going to be a revisiting and see what holds up. So without further ado, let's begin.
You know, when I came back to YouTube, I wanted to talk about some great games, games that really make you proud of being called a gamer. But then I come back on my return video and the comments I see are about reviewing Napoleon Total War. I mean, I know that I'm obligated to review every Total War game ever made, but damn, really? Like, you don't want me to review any other ones like Napoleon? Like, I thought you guys loved me. How you gonna do this to me?
To be honest, Napoleon Total War was a pretty big surprise for me. I know it has been asked before, but if you look at the Steam numbers here, not a lot of people play the game, and it doesn't look like it's something that's really been going up or anything like that. It just seems like other Total Wars are far more playable, Medieval 2. I figured maybe a suggestion to review those campaigns, or maybe a revisit of Rome 2, because I've heard some people ask me that before, or, just another one of the plethora of Total War games. But it's always surprising because I reviewed Thrones of Britannia, and that did, like, last year, and that one did pretty well, and that one has a pretty low player count as well. So it's really hard, even with that, to judge what people would want to see. You really just have to make the video and see what clicks with people. Even do all your magic tricks or whatever, people are going to watch what they want to watch. So yeah, it was just surprising to me.
So I don't want this game to force me to disappear again, so I'm gonna make this as quick as possible. I don't recommend it. It's one of the worst Total War games I've ever played. If you want that time period, just play Empire instead and go along on your merry way. This is Powerhouse signing off.
After playing the other Total Wars and really reviewing more of them, and the release of Thrones of Britannia and a bunch of other ones, I think I can easily say that it's maybe not the worst, but it's definitely at the bottom. I know I did a tier list not too long ago, but tier lists are subjective and they change all the time. I still would put this on one of the more forgettable Total Wars. Same with Thrones of Britannia. Those to me are like the bottom two.
Hey, Papa, where you think you going?
The man, the myth, the legend, Uncle Ramon finally makes his debut on the channel. His surprise debut. Love him or hate him, he's not going away anytime soon.
Oh, hey, Uncle Ramon. Yeah, I just finished my review of Napoleon Total War, so I'm trying to get the hell out of here.
Finished? Man, I remember back in the day, you used to love to review Total War. Man, those were the good old days.
Yeah, because those were better games. Now, can you just go? I need a...
You see this chancleta? You see this correa? If you don't finish, you're gonna be spending time with these friends of mine.
Whoa, chill. I got my motivation back. Hold on.
Okay, God bless you, Papa.
The struggles of being Hispanic.
Pretty sure there was a segment of my audience that experienced PTSD once they saw La Correa come out. And also the chancleta. My apologies.
Okay, let's get to work.
So Napoleon Total War was released in 2010. Originally, it was designed to be an expansion pack to Empire Total War, which makes sense after you play it. You know the old saying, as much things change, as more things change, more they stay the same? This basically happened not one-to-one with Rome 2 and Attila, and now once again with Three Kingdoms and this upcoming Three Kingdoms 2. So, yeah. But in development, they changed it to be its own standalone title due to quote-unquote major changes to the engine. Well, I've played this game long enough and I don't see these major changes. Most of them are minor at best, but let's save that for later.
Now, I can just dive right in and get into the main flaws early, but I think it's best just to get the positives out the way first.
As always, the graphics and presentation are top-notch and a step above Empire. The soundtrack is also great as it fits the campaign seamlessly. Oh, and the intro scene is incredibly well done. It is very thematic and sets the tone for the rest of the campaign. I always believe if a game has great graphical fidelity or has a certain type of art style or presentation, high production values, whatever, I think a lot of its flaws gameplay-wise tend to get overlooked because one thing that I guess a lot of people ignore is that I do say good things about the game here, as I did. Graphics are amazing and, for the time, obviously. And, presentation values are great. Music is great, all that stuff. But that's not enough to really excuse the other issues that I have with gameplay, which I'll get into again with the linearity and lack of replay value and really just just a lack of excitement. And like I said, I'll get more of those issues that I have on the rest of the video. But honestly, I just feel like if you have a game with high production values and all that stuff, a lot of the gameplay elements will tend to get overlooked. If we look at the AAA industry, the gameplay isn't always the best, but they do have the best graphics and the best production values. So that's something that we can always expect from them because that's what they deliver. And that's what reviewers like, and the general population could get wild by pretty things. So it is what it is. But the ending for this intro kills the tone for me every time. You can just add anything you want here.
Earn it! Hadouken! Earn it!
Oh man, I wanted that ship. I'm going to admit that some of the jokes in this review definitely can hurt the pacing, and there can be hit and miss. But the Hadouken, man, that was a hit. That made me chuckle. Obviously, the focus of this game is on Napoleon and his rise to power when he eventually becomes into power. The game contains 3 campaigns dealing with Italy, Egypt, and Europe respectively. Only Italy is playable at first while the other 2 are locked. So let's begin this linear slog with the Italian campaign. It starts out with a decent intro, and already I see a huge problem with this game.
What I love about Total War is the ability to play with history. Well, you can't really do that in Napoleon Total War because you're just reenacting Napoleon's conquest. Heck, you can't really manipulate the conquest in your own way. Because of the way the maps are set up, there really is only one way to go.
With all the comments I've gotten, I have yet for someone to reiterate this point that the linearity is a turnoff, especially for me. It's kind of a reason why a lot of people, when it comes to Rome Total War, don't really play the Alexander campaign because it's kind of boring. You don't hear many people talk about that campaign because it's very linear and there's very little you can do to really play around with it. And that's basically how I feel about the Napoleon campaign in general. Very little you can really do and a little too easy, honestly, and I'll get into that later. But this point that I bring up about the linearity, I've never heard anyone refute it yet. So if you're not bothered by the linearity, that's fine. But as I've said, I like to play around with history, and you can still have it linear, but just have me maybe take an alternative path or do something that wasn't historical or do something that was just give me some options so it feels like I have a choice in the destination rather than having it feel on rails. Just like in all other Total Wars, you get objectives that can be completed. Some of these can be ignored, but most of them you'll complete anyways since it stands between you and the main objective. All the campaigns progress a half a month per turn. Because of this, it takes 2 turns to raise standard line infantry. It makes the game feel even longer than necessary when it really isn't. Now, linearity is not often a bad thing, but it must be supported with great combat. Unfortunately, that's another area where Napoleon drops the ball. So this is usually the part of the video where I feel like all the dislikes come in and people just abandon the video, which is fine, do what you want. But, okay. So, regarding the combat, I will say, looking back, this is probably something that I can say I was wrong on in terms of it's not really, it feels slower in a way, probably more methodical would be a better way. And looking back on it, there actually were some improvements in guarding unit formation and the way your units move and how they line up and all that stuff. It was done way better in Fall of the Samurai. That I think has the best musket combat of anything. So I played Fall of the Samurai before I went to this, so that's why it felt worse. And plus, with Empire Total War, you have the excuse of a little more variety to play around with. So, you know, unit variety is much more impressive there. It's limited here, which I'll get to. But yeah, I would say it probably is in a way maybe a little more polished, but I wouldn't say it's like vastly superior in like every single way, or it's so much better than any other Total War. Maybe better than Empire combat wise, because Empire combat is balls, but to say it's like fantastic with no flaws and like a stark improvement, I disagree. The combat is literally a slower version of Empire Total War, as if Empire Total War wasn't slow enough. The biggest issue is just how much freaking morale everyone has. Even militia will still hold their ground when they have less than 40% troops. And once they do break, they tend to recover as soon as they get to the edge of the map, unless you send cavalry to run them down. Now, to be fair, Empire Total War has this issue as well, like with, you know, units running to the edge of the map and then coming back. But it feels a little more pronounced here, and, you know, it's an issue in both games, so I will admit that. While it's always cool to see thousands of troops duking it out, it quickly loses its appeal when you realize you won't be doing much. Even great positioning and flanking doesn't seem to have that drastic of an effect like in other titles in the series. I would say this is a poor criticism on my part, because, I mean, this is really the time when cavalry really wasn't as important. Although, you know, Napoleon was, you know, famous for his use of cavalry in certain battles. So, you know, as much as cavalry was not as strong as it was in medieval ages and ages past, you know, because it's a different style of warfare, I still do feel like it should have had some effect. I think it's just the issue with the engine itself, with the Warscape engine that they use here. Cavalry got way better in later games, especially in Attila. Maybe a little too powerful there, but in this game, yeah, cavalry is definitely not very strong, and the physics, you know, engine and all that stuff really don't look good. But I think it's just the engine itself. For what little has been added, I'm surprised the AI wasn't improved upon all that much. The battle AI seems to be a bit better than Empire, but the campaign AI is still pretty bad. They tend not to attack and just bottle their troops in one position. This isn't necessarily exclusive to Napoleon, but campaign AI for Total War has been very passive, especially with the Warscape engine. They tend, a lot of the times, they'll tend to just hold up and not really move, and you're not really strong enough to move anyways, so it's always like that, you know, stalemate. It's kind of annoying.
By the way, if you want to play this game, which I don't know why at this point, do not play the game on normal difficulty. At least play it on hard. If you do, it's going to be incredibly boring.
Okay, I feel like I keep beating around the bush about these supposed changes, so let's just talk about them. So this is another point that I have that gets ignored. A lot of criticisms of the newer Total Wars, or every time a Total War comes out, is it basically, you know, is the same. There's not enough changes, or they don't add too much, you know. It's basically the same thing. It was a criticism when Attila was released. A lot of people were saying, hey, it's the same thing. But why, you know, it's the same thing as Rome 2, just a different time period, at least on the surface. So why is Napoleon excused?
For the first change, we have dropping battles for the campaign.
To be fair, I do like the new ability to pick your general when you recruit one. The better generals to choose from are more expensive. It gives you a feeling of control of who you want to lead your armies.
The only real major addition is the multiplayer campaign, and while I would have liked for it to be introduced in Empire, I'm fine with it being here. The problem is, I can't show you any footage because I can't get it to freaking work.
If there's one thing I am grateful for Napoleon Total War for introducing to the series that became a series staple, was the addition of the multiplayer campaign, because that has added hundreds upon hundreds of hours, countless fun with my friends setting up campaigns from Rome 2, Attila, Warhammer 2. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm glad that Napoleon Total War has introduced it. So it is another positive that I can mention for this game. Oh, and there's also a feature where certain generals don't actually die in battle. They just get wounded. So when you defeat somebody like Napoleon, he's gone from the battle, but he'll return back in the capital. After 30 minutes, I reflected on the time wasted and said, is this what my life has really come to? This game is so boring, I literally can't keep myself from getting distracted. I'm serious. When I was getting footage for the game, I literally stopped playing to discuss life lessons to one of my boys. I'm not joking about this one either. Like, this actually happened. Like, I actually, paused the game as I was recording it, and I was talking to my friend about, like, relationships and how to deal with them. So like it actually got pretty deep. Like I remember, I think it was like a 45 minute like conversation as it was just paused. So that actually happened, and I do recall it happened like on this map. So yeah, it's some fun trivia for you.
Heck, I'd rather do anything else right now. Speaking of which,
so remember when I was like, there's some jokes in this review that are hit or miss. This is definitely more in the miss. While I don't think it's necessarily terrible as it'll play, I think it just took up way too much time and killed the pacing. But I've learned better since then. Like I said, this was one of my earlier format videos, and trying to figure out how to do sketch comedy and how to incorporate sketches into my review. I was still kind of learning here, and I haven't like mastered it, I wouldn't say that, but I've definitely improved in terms of pacing and when to naturally have them flow into reviews without cutting too much of it. And this cut way too much time, and we'll get into that.
Hey, Papa, how the review going, man?
yeah, I'm almost done with it. Just taking a bit of a break.
Well, that's okay, Papa. We all need to relax. I'm just here cooking the rice. It's gonna be really good. Trust me, Papa. By the way, it's really good that you're gonna relax, because, man, when I was your age, I never did that. I always pushed myself too hard. And now that I'm older, man, I regret it. I really should have took the time to relax. The secret to good food is adobo. If you don't have adobo, man, your meal will crumble. Have you ever been to a restaurant and the food was good and you never saw the chef? That's because the chef is probably Hispanic, comprende? And they don't want to give us credit because he probably got adobo and he probably got sazon, but they don't want to give us credit for it, comprende?
All right, watching it back, I think there actually are some good moments in it, because I mean, if you're Hispanic or know anyone who's Hispanic, they tend to get like this. Me being Hispanic, I have uncles who get into talking about all this stuff, and so it's funny to me that way. But looking back on it, yeah, it definitely wasn't the smoothest way I could have introduced the joke, but you live and you learn, right?
Yeah, I have to go. I still need to finish the review.
Oh, that's fine, Papa. It's good that you're gonna get it done, because if not, you're gonna have to spend time with Mrs. Chancleta. And man, she's not the type of woman you wanna deal with.
Now, where the hell was I?
So after a few long hours, I finished the Italian campaign. Unfortunately, I have 2 more campaigns to do: Egypt and Europe. I started the Egypt campaign, and this is really when I struggled to continue. It felt like such a linear and boring slog. I just gave up. Sorry, but I would rather fail a campaign 100 times in Shogun 2 rather than complete one in Napoleon. So every game has a sort of central gameplay loop. For the Total War series, it's raising your troops, you know, using the money to build your economy, raise troops, and go out and fight, conquer territory, rinse and repeat. It's a very addictive gaming loop. But with that said, if I feel like I figured out the game way too early and there's nothing really secret or cool to like continue playing for, then I'll get tired, which I kind of did with this. I felt like, you know, even with a new terrain and new enemies, I've basically seen it all. It's just gonna be reskins or whatever. That's how I felt personally, so that's why I just didn't end up finishing it.
What sucks is the Europe campaign is the actual grand campaign for France. But too bad at this point, I just don't feel like continuing. Hey, I'll make it up. I'll just review the other campaigns. That'll be fun, right?
There seems to be a common criticism among people who review games or leave a negative review on something. And the response is always, well, you didn't put enough time into it, or you didn't beat it, so how can you say it? And then you're like, okay, fine. So then you go beat it, and then all of a sudden they say, well, it doesn't matter because you beat it anyway, so it probably was worth it. So it's almost like there's nothing you can do. I didn't get that issue with this review necessarily, but I noticed that if you don't beat something or if you don't complete something, then your review is null and void, which I disagree with. If a game is not interesting and doesn't compel you to beat it, and you feel like, you know, you've gotten your fill and you feel like you have enough information to state your case how you feel about the game, then go right ahead. You don't need to see every single thing, play every single, like, that's like if I review Warhammer 2, I can't do it because I need to beat every single campaign or every single thing, you know what I mean? Like, as every single faction to really understand the game, which I think at that point would just be overkill. You know, and one example too is LG Art when he did his Fallout 4 review, which was a great review. Is it wrong because he only put 30 hours in the game and didn't beat the story? You see what I mean? I think it's when you feel like you have enough time and you played the game long enough and you feel comfortable with what you have, then you can state your case. If you have missed something, it is what it is. The first of these other campaigns is the Coalition campaign. It's the grand campaign with Austria, Great Britain, Prussia, and Russia as selectable factions. So I picked Russia, and honestly, I was enjoying myself for a bit. It felt like a slightly smaller scale of Empire Total War, and I was able to actually decide on who or what I would like to go after. Heck, even the battles were more enjoyable with better unit variety. However, the same issues remain with the combat, so it began to grow stale after a few turns. The next and thankfully last campaign is the Peninsular campaign. As the name suggests, the focus is on the Iberian Peninsula. Spain, Great Britain, and France are playable. I went with Spain because Spanish.
That's right, Papa. You better pick Spain. Hey, did I ever tell you about the story of Pedro the Crusader? Man, Pedro, he was such a great man. He really believed in God. It wasn't that he became it just for the money and the fame. He actually...
Can I finish the review?
All right, so Pedro the Crusader is not a real person. This was from my Spanish campaign, my Spain campaign from Medieval 2, when I was playing as the Spanish, and I ended up with this character called Pedro the Crusader, and this guy was on, like, you know, he became a crusader, and he took over like a lot of territory, and he fought like a lot of battles, and his chivalry was like really high. Eventually, he settled down and became a governor, you know, just kind of chilling at home. And then he was known as Pedro the Good. So it was just like a little throwback to that game, a little inside joke, but I thought it was pretty funny.
Man, I just wanted to tell you a story.
Anyways, France has most of it captured, but similar to the Western Roman Empire in Rome 2, they face opposition from all the other factions in addition to eternal strife. Spain, Great Britain, and Portugal, who's unplayable for some reason, are united to drive France off the map. Reading into history, it seems like Portugal is very underrated. I mean, they had some colonies in Southern America, and you know, as small of a landmass that they had in Europe, they were still pretty influential and fought off the Spain, numerous times. So there is actually very interesting history when it comes to Portugal. But for some reason, it seems that when it comes to the Total War series, and I would say a lot of video games in general, historical video games, they tend to make Portugal just seem like Spain's little brother and that they really weren't on equal terms. And to be fair, they weren't like on equal terms, but like Portugal still had its significance, and the fact that it seems to get snubbed for whatever reason is a little unfortunate. I wish more games could expand Portugal and really show them as more of a major power than a minor one. Religion has been replaced by pro and anti-France alignment. As Spain, you'll need to rely on using agents to start revolts and convert the population to your side. It's an interesting mechanic and is vital, and you can't really brute force France at first. But that's enough about that campaign. Outside of the campaigns, there are battles you can play, but there's really not much I have to say about them at this point, and I'm gonna fall asleep if I spend more time with this game. Overall, this game is really unnecessary and really should have been an expansion to Empire rather than its own game. The lack of improvements or additions don't warrant a full standalone release. Say what you want about Empire Total War, but at least it was ambitious. Sure, it wasn't the most polished product from Creative Assembly, and I did have my issues with it, but it's a hell of a lot more interesting than this title. I actually have gone back to Empire after making this video. I've gone back and done a couple of campaigns. I've played the Warpath, I think it was a Warpath campaign, basically as the Native Americans. And I tried another Spain campaign. I think I did a New Britain one as well. I've Russia, Sweden. So I've tried different countries, like going back to it. I just wish that Empire Total War was just a overall better game, like for combat wise. Honestly, I would love to see an Empire 2. If they were gonna make another historical Total War that's not Three Kingdoms, like if it's in the works, I always say either Empire 2 or Medieval 3. But at the end of the day, if you enjoy it, that's fine with me. I ain't judging. At the end of the day, what I say is an opinion. I would never take any game that I play or any opinion I have on a game and say this is absolute fact. I may disagree with you strongly, and I'm going to tell you that, or I may agree, whatever. But that doesn't mean, oh, I'm right and you're wrong or anything. This is just my case, and this is just my viewpoint. And I think this is what a lot of people missed. If you like this game, that's awesome. Hey, you found enjoyment where I couldn't. That's a great thing. But that doesn't make you better or me worse or anything like that. You found this, you've enjoyed that. That's great. Same thing with my tier list too. I get this a lot where it's like terrible list because you only put this at B or whatever when it should have been like an S. At the end of the day, opinions are opinions, and if you enjoy something more than I do, that's great for you. And I just hope you guys can respect each other's opinion and we can be respectful about it.
And now I'm done. And I think my uncle might be too. So thank you guys for watching. There's going to be many more great reviews to come. Next time it's going to be Soul Calibur 6.
Remember when I promised Soul Calibur 6 to be reviewed? Man, those were the good old days.
Looking forward to it. Got a special review plan for that, and I hope you enjoy it. As always, thank you guys for watching, and this is Powerhouse signing off.
Alright, I think I'm just going to wrap it up here. Overall, I mean, some of my points still stand. Some of my points I've been able to look over, but it was actually pretty interesting seeing, how much I've developed and grown since then. The audio mixing on this was bothering me. But then again, I don't have the best audio mixing, and it's still something I struggle with, but as long as you continue to work hard, at least what I believe, as long as you continue to work hard and acknowledge your faults and continue to work at them, you'll always improve. So if you came into this video hoping that I change my opinion 100% or anything like that, unfortunately, that's not the case. But it was cool to relook at it. I think some things I could have said better. And some things that, I could have done better in the review, like I said, the jokes and all that stuff. But yeah, if you guys want to see more reviews that I return back to, let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you guys for your support. I wish you all the best. And as always, this is Powerhouse signing off.